Costa and welcome to my channel. In today's episode, we'll explore an interesting idea expressed by one of my favorite comedians, Andrew Schulz. He's talking about why Bitcoin is actually one of the most predictable assets, and his hypothesis is based on the price of Bitcoin is directly affected by the feelings of people, and more specifically by the fear and greed index. Let's check the video.
Crypto is actually the most predictable asset on the planet.
How?
Because it's not based on anything but human reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can create metrics for that human reaction. The only thing that makes it tricky is when outside influence starts affecting it. For example, government starts saying, we're not doing crypto anymore, or like a billionaire starts fucking tweeting about it, etc. Outside of that, I bet you could plot the course of crypto and judge it based on a greed and risk tolerance. Two graphs of greed and risk tolerance. In other words, when crypto starts to spike, Bitcoin starts to make some more money, what happens is people like me go, oh shit, my friends are getting rich and it's just going up. I don't want everybody to get rich except me. I'm in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, crypto goes to a certain point where people go, I've made 10x, 20x on my money. Shit, I got to get out before this shit drops. It's going to drop. That risk tolerance, you start to hit a wall of how much you think you'll be able to gain.
Yeah.
There will be a metric for that.
So to be able to investigate this idea, we'll need two main datasets. One is the BTC USD that we can get from Yahoo Finance, and the other one is the fear and greed index. Now, to calculate the fear and greed index from scratch, it will be a bit difficult, but I found this website that has started doing the fear and greed index, I think, from the start of 2018. And the website is called alternative.me. And here we can see the fear and greed index, and it has some really good explanation of what that means. Also, it explains the different data sources and how they are calculating this index. And here in the bottom, we can download this data. I've used this one, and I've copied in my local directory to be able to merge it or join it with the BTC USD dataset, and being able to perform this strategy. Let's see how we can do this in code. From episode 1, we can download BTC USD dataset. I'll just copy it in this folder because I've already downloaded, but you can check the episode 1 and how you can download this dataset. And the other dataset that we need is the fear and greed index, as I've said earlier. And the fear and greed index has a date, the fear and greed value, and the classification. We'll just need the date and the value. We are not going to use the classification value. And then BTC USD is just the normal Yahoo Finance CSV format file. Let's create the file that we can manipulate this data and have one dataset with both datasets combined. So I'm going to name these data manipulation. We are going to use Pandas for this, so let's import it. Here we'll read the first CSV file, which is the fear and greed CSV file. So we can use read CSV from Pandas, and we should give the directory. So it's episode 3 / fear and greed .csv file, and we can print it to make sure that we can read it okay. Let's run this. as you can see, the data is there, so it means we parse it fine. We'll need to make a slight modification to the data. So the date here is month, day, and year, but we want the data to be in this format, so year, month, and day. So we can do fear and greed df date equals to pnd.toDateTime, and then we can do fear and greed df get the date column and say get the data time object and use strf time to format the date to our specific format. So we need year, and then we need the month, and of course the date in the end. The next step will be to read our BTC data frame. So let's do pnd.readCSV, and then it's again episode 3, and the name is btcusd.csv. And the last step will be to join these the two datasets. So here we can say result dataset equals to pnd.merge, and we want to merge BTC in df, the fear and greed data frame, on the column that we want to use for both data, which will be the date, and then we can export this to a CSV file again, and let's give it a name, episode 3, and say BTC fear and greed .csv, and I'll specify that we don't want the index here. So if we run this here, we can see the new, we got it. So on this file, it's both columns from fear and greed and BTC USD files combined. You just need to be a bit careful with the dates and make sure that you are using the correct date formats. Now we can go ahead and implement our strategy. So I'm gonna name this example.py, and I'll just copy from the previous episode the strategy, but I'm gonna just delete the buy and hold strategy and just say fear and greed strategy, and we'll have to implement this. So just to give you a bit of context, in the previous episode we have this code, and what this does is essentially initializing Backtrader, adding the strategy that we'll implement, then specifying the amount to $100,000, adding some logs, and then reading our data. So for this we are gonna use episode 3, and we should say BTC USD, and let's just change the date to 2021 08/15. And now we can implement our strategy. So let's say class fear and greed, and this should inherit from btc.strategy class. And as we've said in the previous episode, we can have we get the next function for free because we are inherit from this class, and the next function runs on each line of our CSV data. So let's do def next, and here we can implement our strategy. So initially we just want to read the complete data frame so we can get the fear and greed value. So let's do df equals pnd dot we need to import pandas. So we can do pnd dot read CSV, of course, and then the file names, which is episode 3 btc fear and greed .csv. Then we need the date, which on each line the first column is the date, so we can get the date by doing self.datas of index 0, which means the current line that we are reading, get the date time object, and then the date. Now we need to query our data frame based on that date. And we can use string to do that. So we can say date equals, and then date. And to get all the FER values, we can say FER values equals row of fng value, which is, if you check our CSV, this is a column name, and then say dot values, and this will read everything. And again, this is this will return a list. So if we say FER values of 0, we'll return what we specify here based on the date. If we say FER values of 1, it will be the next day. If it's -1, it will be the previous day. And we can go ahead and say FER value equals FER values of index 0, and then go ahead and write the main part, which will be, let's say, if FER value is less than 10, this means extreme fear, which, like, what it means in general is that a lot of people are selling their Bitcoin, and this is an opportunity for us to make a buy order. So I'll say here make a buy order, and we can go ahead and define the size, which will be an integer, of course, and we need all the cache that we have. So we can get the cache by doing get cache, and then divide this by self.data, which will be the closing price of the first line in our CSV, and then we can do self.buy and specify the size. And this will try to buy almost to use all the cash that we have and buy the appropriate amount in Bitcoins. And we can have a log message that's saying, okay, this is a buy order, and specify the FER value and then date, just for some sanity. Now let's define where we are selling. So if FER value is bigger than 90, this means extreme greed. And for us, it means a lot of people are buying Bitcoin, so the price of Bitcoin at this point is kind of overpriced, so we can make a sell order. And to make a sell order, we don't need the size, we just want to sell everything, so we can do self.exit, and this will just sell all of our Bitcoins. And again, we can go ahead and print a message here saying, oh, this is a sell order, and the FER value and date. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's run our strategy and check. Okay, we're getting an error saying index 0 is out of bounds on line 13, so it's here. And if we print the date that we are trying to fetch this result, I'm sure that we don't have this data, so it's 2017 12/31. So if we check here 2017 12/31, and as you can see, we don't have this date. So here we can say if fear values, if the length of this array is bigger than 0, then execute our strategy. If it's not, then just like skip this date. So now if we run this again, we've started seeing some buy orders, and because we try to buy something and then we try to buy something again, it says that we cannot perform like our exit strategy. So what needs to happen here in order to simplify this, we just need to specify basically to allow only one order to exist at each time. So we can use the init function to specify a variable saying order exists, and of course this at the beginning will be set to false, and when we're making a buy order we can say self.orderExist equals true, and we're making a sell order, we can say self.orderExist equals false. And let's run this again. Okay, we have one buy and then we have another buy. Yeah, of course here we also need to say if fear value is less than 10 and self.orderExist equals false, then make a buy. And again here kind of the same, but the opposite as the buy order. So if order exists equals true, then sell. And we shouldn't see any other buy order here. Sorry, this is self.close, not exit. Now we can go ahead and run our strategy. I just noticed that some data is missing for January and February 2018 from the Fear and Greed index. So I just use March here until August 15, 2021. Let's run it. And we can see one buy order and then sell order, one again buy order, sell order, as we expected, because we only allow one trade per time. And if we zoom in here, we can see that we have one buy order here, and then we are selling here, again one buy order here and one sell order here. And although our strategy is profitable, we just only had 2 buys and 2 sells, which is not many orders to understand if a strategy is profitable or not. In this case, we might just have gotten lucky for this time period. Now, if you try to run this using real-time data, you might not get that lucky and you might actually lose money. So make sure that you have backtest for a long time and you are confident that your strategy will perform as expected. Our ROI is 5.5, which is amazing. And if we compare this to our buy and hold strategy, just to check how this will perform, against just buy and holding. So on the buy and hold strategy, we just have one buy order here, and then we just holding through the time. And the ROI on that is 4.2, which is less than our strategy, which means that our strategy actually beats buy and hold. So Andrew was right in the end. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.